Hello there, friends. Today is March 13th, 2024, and today we are going to discuss the value of 10 different CJ Stroud rookie cards from the 2023 Panini Prizm Football set. So this should be a lot of fun. There are a ton of inserts within this set, and so that's why I thought it'd be interesting to sort of compare them side by side, show you how I establish my comps, and find fair value for all of these cards. Well, at least what I think is fair value. So if that sounds interesting to you, then let's get going. First things first, let's talk about one of my favorites on the list. Is going to be the Prizm Flashback Rookie. It's card number PFR-2, as you can see up here. Towards the top, we have obviously all the information of this card, but we also have in this top right corner something that I've been doing lately, and I think it's pretty helpful. These are the amount of cards that have been submitted to PSA 10 for grading. So submitted, we see we've got 193 of them submitted. This comes straight from the population report that you can find online through PSA's site. Now, 145 of them have come back as a PSA 10. That is a whopping 75.13%. That's insanity. That really is insanity. That means that if you have one of these raw, you absolutely have to send it in just because of that return rate is so crazy. Anyways, on to the rest of the table here. What this table shows is 15 recent comps. These are recent sales, or the most recent that I could find, that are done on eBay, and they're only auctions. Well, most of the time they're only auctions, and because I like to see that back and forth. I like to see that bidding happen so I can establish true supply and demand for a card. Down the bottom, what you will see are various colors. These are the most important numbers on these tables. This first number in blue is the average bid price somebody had to pay in order to win one of these cards. So that comes to $185.85. We also next to that have the average shipping they paid and the average total. So $190.51 gets you on average this card delivered to your house. Now, these numbers are not what I would consider to be fair value because they don't take into consideration that sellers have fees that they must give to auction sites. And those fees generally vary between 13 to 15%. And so, based upon this blue number P, subtracting the fees, you are going to get $160.93. Now that is what sellers are taking home. This is the number that I would consider fair value because there's not a third party. This is just what the sellers are taking home, what they're willing to get rid of it for, right? That's essentially what this is. So beyond that, to the right of this, we have what I call stoplight numbers. Green means go, yellow means slow, red means hard stop. The 70, 75%, and 80% price points of the blue number P. So 70% of P is the green light, 130.10. So this is a first offer for me. In general, if I'm in person at a show or at a store or a shop and I want to get my hands on this card, I'm first offering $130.10. Second offer on average is going to be $139, and final offer at 80% is $148.68 because I got to have some meat on the bones in case I want to turn it around and find another person to trade that to. Now, I always like to make sure that I am getting in on the bottom third of sales. So immediately what I do is I sort ascending here and I drop down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like we got 136.33. So because this is within that bottom third, this becomes usually my final offer instead. So 136 is what I would be trying to get this card at if I had it in person. I also like to try to sell in the top third of sales. So from the bottom, I'm going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 175.37 would be what I would ask for it in person. That would net me, what, $40 or so, $39, a nice little turnaround, or $202.50 as a buy it now option. This would probably be what I would consider doing with this card because I think it'll be the easiest way to find that profit margin in general. So with this card, it's also important to take a peek at our graph. We have sorted this ascending, so as you can see, they're in order by date over here, and that applies to this graph. Now, what this graph is showing is that natural supply and demand curve, what people are paying, again, on these cards. And as you can see, we're in a little bit of a lull, right? We are definitely not in an upward trajectory, at least as far as what I would consider an upward trajectory, which means this is going to reinforce for me the fact that I am once again hard stopping before this yellow. So that 136 is looking like a great offer for me just because the market is trending downward. And I don't want to get caught overspending on a card that might be heading downward. All right. So now that we got that one out of the way, the rest are going to be easy and quick. I know that took a little bit of time. Thank you for bearing with me. The rest of the cards will go nice and fast. So Fireworks, next up. Love this card. This card is very, very affordable. So this is card number F-10. We had 296 submitted to PSA. 228 have come back PSA 10s, and that's a 77% return rate. Interesting, right? Again, pretty high on that. I'd be interested to see what the PSA 10s are going for. Perhaps I'll do another video on that and compare. But as you can see, on average, $6.29 is what people are bidding on eBay. Seller take home is going to be $5.16, and green light is $4.40. Let's take a look at what our bottom third number is going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 404. Well below that first offer. See, so this is why I'm mostly going to highlight for this video just this green offer and compare into the bottom third. If we get something that goes outside of that first offer, then we'll discuss it a bit further. But 404, obviously in the bottom third, that means for me, this green number, $4.40, is my final offer. Let's go up 5 from the bottom, $6.50 on eBay, buy it now, or $5.34 in person would net me right around $1 in profit. That's going to take a lot of hustle, that is for sure, in order to make some money off of this card. But with that PSA 10 turnaround rate, I don't know, maybe PSA 10 graded cards in this respect might be the way to go. As you can see with these cheaper cards, you got to be careful when you're buying because your shipping costs can eat into your profits significantly, erasing essentially any dollar amount that we might have won if we were purchasing this through eBay. That's why I like to make my purchases in person mostly, right? I'm not really going to compare this graph. This graph didn't happen over a long enough time period, and you'll see that with future cards that we're going to do here. If it's happened over only a couple days, honestly, this graph doesn't do us much good because we need to see how this card's responding over time, and a 2-day time span, not good enough. Next up, we've got an instant impact. This card is beautiful. This card is awesome. This card doesn't have nearly as many sales, which piques my interest a ton, let me tell you. So this is II-3. First of all, the color in it, the look is cool. I think it's great. 9 submitted to PSA, 8 have come back as a 10, so that's an 89% return rate. Again, I could only find a handful of them, and we're going to actually delete this data here real quick just because it's going to mess with our numbers a bit. All right. I could only find a handful of them. Wish I could find more, but this lack of sales is why I think this card is intriguing. So on average, people are paying $164.18 for this card. Sellers are taking home $142.12, and we've got green, yellow, red. This is one of the few occasions where I would, if I was in person, be willing to go for this 142. I know, that's crazy, right? It is crazy, but this card just has such little volume to it, very little supply. I'm honestly very interested in the fact that it's only $164. We've gotten, well, you'll find later that we have Colorblast that we found more recent sales on than this. So that's what I found the most interesting about this. Next up, though, we've got the Manga, number 7. Basically, again, this is a supply issue. Only 2 of these available. On average, they're going for $3,101, and first offer is going to be $2,170. Again, This is one of those cards where you're basically going to be stuck paying whatever you need to pay. If you really want to get your hands on it, go for it. But this one, interestingly enough, 28 have been submitted. Only 7 are coming back as a PSA 10 grade. That's 25%. That's significantly lower than what we were seeing before. They're just grading it harder. And it'll be interesting to compare that percentage later on when we get to the Colorblast, because Colorblasts are also going for multiple thousands of dollars, even in fact a little bit more than what we're seeing this card go for. But it'd be interesting to see what the percentage rate is on that. Again, not really going to compare this graph. You only have a few to compare. No worries. All right. Next up, we've got more volume here. Prizm Break. We see this card quite a bit. It's okay. You know what I mean? I feel like the basketball sets of Prizm have a way cooler Prizm Break. That's just me. Anyways, on average, people are bidding $5.66. Seller take home $4.61. First offer is going to be right around $4, and on the bottom third, we're looking for $3.39. So yes, green is going to be my final offer on that. If you want to get into the top third of sales, $5.56 would net you about $1.50. That equates to a $6.75 buy it now. Once again, happened within only a couple day time frame, so no need to take a peek at the graph. That is, again, PB-6, card number on that. Next, one of my hidden favorites here, we've got the Prismatic. So this is card number 6 within that Prismatic set. It's $11.37, so we're definitely ticking a little bit higher than that Prizm Break that we just looked at. $9.56, seller take home. First offer right around $8, as you can see there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 707 is going to be in the bottom third. So green is my first and final offer on this card. $8 is what I'm trying to get my hands on it for, and selling it for about $12.70. A cool $4 profit margin when you sell it for right around $14.99 on a buy it now. Next, we've got another cool card. Profiles. This card is sweet. I want one. Not as much as the next card we're going to talk about, but I want one of these so bad. We're getting 12 submitted, 6 have come back PSA 10. That's a 50% return rate. We did see a huge bump in price point as soon as one of these cards hit the market. That's on the 5th of January 2024, $1,581. That is going for almost double some of these marks down below. So that means that it's probably going to skew our numbers a little bit. I always like to make sure I keep an eye on something like that, especially at these higher price points. So on average though, $936.88 is average bid price. $812 is average seller take home. $655 is first offer. And let's see what bottom third is going to be. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's go down 3 just because. Let's see here. $659 is going to be in the bottom third. So $659 becomes my new final offer. Call it $660. And if you, of course, get into the top third, you probably make $100, $200 as well. This is going to be a very hard card to get your hands on. However, as you can see, again, we are skewing downward. A downward trend on this card, which means that I'm really going to stick very close to that. What was it, 660 we said? Yes, really close to that 660 first and final as far as getting this card, just because that trend is heading in the wrong direction. But again, the lack of availability of this card has me intrigued, and you're getting a 50% return rate on a PSA 10, which would certainly bump up that profit margin. You ready for the next one? I love this next card. I really do. It's the Blueprint. Yes. This is card BP-13. So this card, on average, selling for $494.22. Again, a lack of volume of sales. Basically, I go back within a 3-month time frame on all of these, and yeah, not really happening as far as sales as of yet. So $428 is seller take home. First offer $345.95. Let's look at what the bottom third or so is going to be. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. So let's go down 3 again. We're looking at 436.92. Now this actually is above the average seller's take home. So I'm probably going to be sticking to that 80% price point on this card, which is $395 as my final offer. In order to get into the bottom or top third, $456. So you can net yourself 50, 60 bucks with a $527 buy it now. This card, though, is not returning at nearly as much of a rate for PSA 10. 11 submitted for PSA 10s, 36.36. I'm betting that's because of these edges. When you got those dark edges, that is a very, very, very hard thing to control. Very cool card, though. I love it. I love it so much, right? I really do. Graph, let's sort ascending just to see where we're trending on this card. I mean, pretty steady. We had that one at 350.67 that kind of brought the average down quite a bit. I should probably look into that card and make sure we're not dealing with some funny business there. But I would say relatively stable. You've got that between 450 and 550 price point on lock for this card. Just an interesting card. All right. Okay, if I'm being honest with you, I'm re-recording this Colorblast because I realized as I was going through all of this that I was being dumb. So I'm going to do it again because I gave some very bad advice the first time around, and I don't want to do that for all of you out there, especially when we're looking at a card that's worth, what, $5,000 at least, right? So the Colorblast, this is CB-6. Obviously, it's a beautiful card. I would love to have one. I really would, but it's a pretty penny right now, and we're having an average bid price of $6,758.45. Now, this is one of the very few times where I've actually included a best offer in the comps list. That's just because it really fell in line with where the market was at the time that this happened, January 4th. And really, when you've got such few sales happening for a super short print like this, you have to sort of look at it and say, I'm going to break a rule this one time. Anyways, $6,700 on average. Take home $5,862 for the seller. First offer, $4,730. Now, this is where this all starts to break apart, right? Because A, you're dealing with a lot of money. B, you're dealing with an extremely volatile card in general. And C, you're dealing with a market that is trending downward, right? So these averages are skewed a little too high, especially this blue number for obvious reasons. We started off nice and strong, but we've petered out since then with price points coming down, almost half of what that number was at first. So for me, I'm not going to give you a price point on this. I'm not going to tell you buy this card at a certain price point because it doesn't make any sense to me to make that suggestion. So sorry, but you do have some comps here. Play at your own risk on this card. Again, it's a beautiful card, and you are getting a 77.78% return for PSA 10s on this card. So definitely a card you have to get graded, to say the least. But yes, sorry, there's your comps. Take a look at them. Do with them what you will. Last but not least, we've got the duos on this card. And looks like we got the Tank Dell, right? So this card, just because it's got the duo on it, obviously going for a little bit less, about half the price point or so on this card. Still a cool looking card. Doesn't have the unique sort of splash nearly as much as what we saw here. You've got more vibrant colors on this, more variety, whereas this strictly kind of stays within that purple, blue, pink profile. So we're seeing an average of $2,887 as a average bid price, $2,504 as seller take home. First offer, $2,021. And how many of these do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we got 10. So we're going to drop down 3 from the top here. 1, 2, 3, $2,036. So that's going to be my final offer on this card as well. Just a smidge over that green. And if you want to get in the top third of sales, $3,079. If you get this card at the right time, you certainly can make a nice pretty penny turning and burning it. And we're getting a 64.29% PSA 10 return on it as well. Again, we're seeing that drop that we saw with the Color Blast. I'll be interested to see if this curve starts to trend upwards again the closer we get to the season. But it seems like we're averaging out, but the lack of availability of this card, as always, is going to determine what it's worth. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. I'm going to go back to this card and say, like I said, the blueprints is probably one of my favorites. I like the profiles quite a bit as well. And the Flashback Rookie is one that I am actively seeking right now, just because you've got a great PSA 10 return rate on it, and it's in that sweet spot, right? That 185, that's doable. That's definitely doable, and that's a price point where it makes sense to possibly get it graded as well. That's it. I know it was long-winded, as always. It usually is, but it's a lot of information to digest and share. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor. Let me know in the comments down below, because I love talking with y'all. And yeah, I love that positivity down there as well. So thanks again, my friends, for watching. Have a great day.